Gardeners. How may I help you?
Hi everybody, and welcome back to the Calling All Gardeners, the Call-In Garden Show. Hope you had a great May-long weekend. It was nice and toasty out there for you, so hopefully all your plants and vegetables are doing okay in the hot, hot sun. This is the Call-In Gardening Show, so all you gotta do if you have questions about gardening is give us a call, call into Shaw, email Shaw, or Facebook us, and we've got a stacked panel of experts here that can answer your questions and hopefully maybe keep your plants alive a little longer. Who knows? And like I said, we've got a stacked panel. A few of these guys have been here before, actually. Starting with our returning champ, Shay Doherty. Working on the farm, you've gained a lot of valuable experience there, and that's how you learned about growing vegetables in the greenhouse industry, that's right?
Yes.
Great. And
Yeah.
you've run your own bee farm, is that correct?
Oh, yeah. Those little ladies are fun to dance with.
Okay. Well, I've been stung by a lady once or twice before, but I get that.
Yeah.
Also, you got a keen interest for what I call cacti, but what's the actual name for it?
Succulents.
Okay.
Yeah, which derives the plant to its character, being able to restore moisture in its leaves, root, or stem.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Not just for getting poked at. Up next, our second returning champ, Colin Remyard. You're back here. You're one of the owners of St. Leon Gardens, that's right?
You betcha.
Perfect. How's that going?
Absolutely amazing. Like shaking a test last weekend was crazy awesome, crazy busy.
A little busy. I heard it was busy. Your parents founded the business, but we talked about this last time.
You betcha.
You're pushing them out, right?
Oh yeah, slowly but surely.
Very good, very good, very good. And you're still in school right now?
Yeah, next year I got one more year in marketing at the Asper School of Business, but after that we're smooth sailing and we're scot-free. So
awesome. Perfect. And our new challenger, first time on the show, super pumped to have this guy here. Gordon Mackay, you're here today. You're a native plant specialist at Native Prairie Solutions?
Native Plant Solutions.
Native Plant Solutions, okay. Cue card is incorrect. I'm going to blame that one on Shay. That's your fault there.
I'll take it. We're in the Perrys.
There you go, yeah. You grew up in Winnipeg, spent a lot of time helping your parents in the garden?
Yes.
That's correct, perfect. Now it says here you've got a bad case of shade denial.
Shade denial. I try growing sunny plants. I live in River Heights. I got huge elm trees all around me, and I try growing plants that like the full sun, and because they're prettier. They're not hostas or boring and that sort of thing. But
all right,
I'm coming to terms with it.
Very good. So look out, River Heights. You see anyone sawing down elm trees, it's probably Gordon. Tired of it. Well, guys, it's raining. It's been raining all day today, and it's probably going to be raining for the next couple of days. Is it better to plant before the rain or after the rain?
It depends on your soil conditions.
Yeah, a lot of people like to do it before the rain because you get a nice fresh coat of paint, coat of rain right away, and it gives it a boost to your plants. But it's not like, oh, missed the rain, can't plant this year. That's definitely not what's going to happen. So,
okay, sure.
That's a nice thing. The rain's bringing all the earthworms to the top.
Yeah.
Which is going to make that soil just so robust with nutrients and that. It's going to be perfect.
There you have it. You know what? We're going to start taking calls in a moment. I know you all are out there in TV land just waiting to get your questions answered. But first, right now, we got Shay here, and you're going to tell us how we can keep hanging baskets looking great all summer long.
So a lot of people have already purchased hanging baskets, whether you go to any of your retail stores or garden centers. Garden centers, of course, take better care of them. Hands down.
Yeah. Well,
it's just being honest. We put our hands in the basket. But what we do, like this basket still looks absolutely gorgeous. If somebody come and buys this at the retail store or us, they're going to be like, oh, that's gorgeous, take it off the shelf. But there's still some things that need to be done with this guy. When you take her home, there's a little bit of dead blossom starting here. And petunias like to be deadheaded. So if you can just get in there with your fingers, and basically what you're going to do is you'll just come in. Now, everybody just pulls this off, the brown part. It's terrible because you're still leaving the seed on the plant. So the plant's like, well, I've done my job, I've produced for next year, and it goes to sleep. So production of blossom is actually down. So you want to get rid of that. So you'll actually take that green stem right back to the main stem and pick it off like that. And that's how you'll care for these baskets. And then you'll just randomly go over like this, and of course, throw these in your recycling or compost bin. And that's how you would trim this guy up nice. He's doing a nice shape. I would do a little bit of trimming on the long leaves as well, just to keep him looking nice. When you pinch the very end here like this, what happens is you develop a new growth coming from the center of the basket, which produces out brand new shoots and blossoms, which then makes it look really good, so that all summer long, it's in good production. So that's one that looks really nice. And then I've got one here, and it is what we would call leggy. One thing you won't find in a garden center is a pair of scissors in your basket. However, I did that for this purpose. Now this guy I want to trim so it looks nice. It's easier to care for, it's easier to take care of. What you'll do when you're trimming something long, rather than cutting it all the way back here like this, which then totally ruins the style of your basket. As you can see right here, now there's nothing. I took all that off. We don't want to do that again. Again, it'll follow to the process of we want new growth coming out, and we want to develop it. So when you cut, just make sure that you cut near a stem here like this, and you'll just trim it like this, near those stems. And I'll just do all of them here, and I'll show you what the basket will look like after I'm finished.
Now, how often should you be watering these, or how do you water these? Because I mean, my mom, she's got a hanging basket mass grave in her backyard. She's doing something wrong.
Well, it depends on the soil that's used. That's one of the differences between a greenhouse who takes care of our baskets. We're going to use good soil in them. If you're buying them from box stores, their production is to produce the product out fast. If you're buying from them, I'm going to be honest, they're using lower grade soil, and therefore your baskets will die faster.
Okay.
These guys will hold moisture for 2 days.
Okay.
But I still recommend to all my customers watering once a day.
Yeah.
And just look at that. After you trim it up like that, now it's equally developed around the whole basket, and it's going to hang good. So that's what you'll do. And the third one, I'm just going to show you how to identify when your plants need food. Now this one's really light. It actually needs water. You can tell by the height or the weight of the basket. There's 2 plants in here again, petunias and bacopa. With the petunias, what we'll do, again, they can do deadheading, but as well, if you look at it here, there's color changing in the leaves, which is starting to go yellow. And this basket needs food, like it needs dinner. It's hungry. I recommend to all of my customers, make sure you're not constantly giving it one type of fertilizer. It's like us living off of spaghetti for a month. It's terrible. You start to get sick of it. Plants do the same. They want a nutrients change in their diet. So just make sure that you give them different diets, which will bring this leaf back to green if you do that. I would fertilize weekly just because they retain you got to remember they're growing here in a container, and the container only can retain so much food product, and then the rest gets washed out. So you need to repummel or reproduce that food every time that you water. And then again, just clean up. Like make sure you take that stem back. Bacopa is one of the easiest ones to clean up. Once it turns brown and it stops blooming, this is one of the biggest complaints with customers. They're like, oh, well, it's hard to get in there and do this all the time. But with Bacopa, you don't have to. You just take your fingers like a comb and go like that, and brown things just drop off. And it's ready to go. And that's how you care for baskets, and just make them look right to the end of fall, till frost, looking good.
So what's the natural life cycle of this? If you did take care of it, how long could they potentially last?
Well, most of the product that we put in hanging baskets are annual plants. So based off of that, they're going to live their 9-month cycle. After that, you're going to start getting a little bit of leery. It gets harder to take care of them up here in the north because our days start to shallow out. We start getting shorter days. Annuals, as soon as they see that sun change, they start going, oh, well, you know what, I may not have produced my seed, but I'm tired, I'm going to bed. And they literally start shutting down. With perennial plants in baskets, though, like if you're doing mandavillas and bougainvillas and that, you can bring them indoors and they're going to bloom right through December and keep blooming constantly. They'll take about a month and a half rest, usually in February and March, and then they're back at it again.
Right. Unless you're putting spaghetti in the hang.
Yeah, unless you're putting spaghetti in your basket.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, change the diet.
That's your mistake, Mom. Too much spaghetti in the hanging baskets. If you just joined us and you're wondering how you can call in, have a look at this right now.
Gardening question for one of our experts on the show today? We would love to hear from you. Register your question by dialing 204-480-3500. Leave a message and volunteers will call you back as soon as they can. That's when we put your question out live on air. You can also register your question online. Go to shaw.ca/Shaw TV Winnipeg or check our Facebook page. Shaw TV is grateful for the support of our community sponsors.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Right now, we're going to just go ahead and take some calls right now. People are itching to get their questions answered. And right now, we've got Jan on the line. Jan, you there?
I'm here, and I love your show.
Oh, thanks, Jan. Appreciate it. You're on the show. You're pretty much a movie star right now. Do you have a question for the panel?
Yeah, we've had problems again with voles damaging our lawn, and we've had to do a lot of repair again. And I'm just wondering, I don't want to put any poison down. I'm just wondering if there's a repellent that we could put down in the fall before the snow falls that would discourage them.
Great, thanks, Jan. She's got a problem with voles. For the layman, i.e., me, let's just explain what a vole is, and then let's tell her how to fix that. What's a vole?
Vole's a type of field mouse.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
And they'll tunnel around, they'll climb up out and under the snow, they'll tunnel around and chew you get all these little squiggly lines on your lawn. And where it looks unsightly, it's usually, they don't cause a lot of damage. I know when I used to work in the golf industry, some of the older superintendents used to put mothballs around the perimeter of a golf green to prevent the voles from going there. It's just smell. So
Okay.
I've never tried it myself, but it's an idea, maybe something they could try to do.
Okay, it's a rodent issue. Sorry about that. I didn't know what a vole was. I'm here to ask the stupid questions. You're not here to ask.
A mole mouse. Yeah.
Vole mouse. Vole mouse. Yeah, I was thinking moles. I'm like, is that right? But, okay, so there's like how do you take care of that? You just, I know you just explained it. Mothballs. Okay.
Yeah, like
Around the perimeter of your yard,
Yeah.
you know, maybe a foot apart or something. The smell might deter them from coming up there and eating.
You can also use cayenne pepper, something hot. Like they don't like feeding on hot products. They like sweet grasses and drier grasses that have dried stemmed. That's what they feed off of. So if you put in cayenne pepper all over your lawn, be prepared. It's going to get hot on you too if you touch it and put it in your eyes. So it has a double negative. So be careful with that.
I'll go rolling around in it.
Yeah, don't go rolling around in it and look good afterwards.
Yeah.
No. So, but it is a cure like that, or get a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be your option, Jan. Maybe get a cat, cover that cat with mothballs and cayenne pepper.
Cayenne pepper.
You got
Do it as a
yourself
bell.
Yeah.
you got yourself a super weapon, Jan. Up next, we have a call from Shari. Are you there, Shari?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, you're on the show. Do you have a question for the panel?
Yeah, I'm wondering if there's a native plant that can satisfy my desire for hydrangeas.
Native plant that can satisfy her desire for hydrangeas?
Well, hydrangeas produce these nice big. Did you want more blue, like the blue hydrangeas that don't grow well here?
No, I'm just looking for like a shrubbish type plant with those huge blooms.
I think the hydrangeas do pretty well here. As long as they have a lot of snow, they'll overwinter well. I don't know why you wouldn't want to not do it. Mine do fine in my yard.
I think it's a really an ethical thing to plant things that are from here.
Mm-hmm.
It's unethical to plant things that are from here?
Not from
Not from here.
She's looking for a
Okay.
native plant.
She's looking. I don't know what would do as well.
There's nothing that really produces that bloom cycle that's native to Manitoba.
Yes.
You could go with grasses and whatnot.
Yeah.
But to actually do something that's going to give that same bloom production, you're kind of rolling back to the hydrangea again.
You could try something like Joe Pye weed. It gets pretty big, and it does have nice big blooms, but you're not going to have them for the extended period. Like the hydrangeas are, they'll bloom for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then if you don't clip them off your plant, they're pretty there. They can sit dried all winter, so it's pretty hard to beat that, I think.
Well, I hope that answered your question, Shari. Hopefully you get those hydrangeas hydrangeas, whatever. Hopefully you get some plants planted. I'm not even going to try to pronounce these words. That's why I'm the host. These guys are the experts. I'm just here to guide the process. We got an email from Jim. He asks, is it better to aerate a lawn in spring or fall, and why?
I would say fall. The reason why is because most than anything, your night crawlers start to do a lot of their work in the fall. Like they start to make their little tunnels and homes that they're going to sleep in. After freeze, they start to get productive. So if you aerate it in the fall, it's going to be a little bit better because you're producing and you're forcing them to go down deeper. So your lawn will look a little bit better in the springtime.
And yeah, I would suggest if you obviously do both, it's the best. You want to get that lawn less compact. Every year, roots keep compacting it, people keep stepping on it. Things just, it's really tight down there. So doing it in the spring, kind of get everything rolling, get everything, air it out, give it some space to grow. It's like if we put 100 people in this yard, and in this fake yard here, in this set, and we only did that once a year. Do it twice a year. It'd be great for your lawn. You're getting nice, lush, and green.
Follow-up question from me: should you leave your grass long or short for winter?
Long.
Longer.
Yeah.
Really, I was told that you're supposed to cut it as short as possible.
No,
it's terrible.
It needs to build its icicles and whatnot in order to overwinter nicer.
Okay.
So leaving it longer is going to produce a blanket of insulation, basically.
To protect the roots, because you don't want your roots to freeze.
Okay. My apologies, Mom. I will go halfers on some sod with you.
That's a good excuse to not cut her lawn. So
yeah, there you go.
It's better for the lawn.
There you go. That's why I didn't cut it. Right now we've got Laura on the line. Laura, are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, Laura, how you doing?
Good.
Great. You got a question for us?
Yeah, I have a question about pepper plants. Wondering, okay, I planted them about a week ago, and it's called wilted. Wondering if you bring back up, or they're going to die, or if I should cut back the greenery.
It could be a couple of things. Usually, if it's been a week, it probably won't be under shock still, right? After a week, no.
Well, because it was hot all week.
It was hot all week, but also if you've been watering a lot, and especially with all the rain, it could be dead. You could have been, drowned to death. But also, if it was last week that it was wilting, like Shay said, the heat, despite if you have a lot of water in the plant, sometimes plants just wilt by the fact that it was like 30 degrees outside. Also, it might be that it's just too dry. Then that's just the first sign of knowing when to water is the fact that your plants are going to be wilting. And like I say, it might still be under shock, but
this rain will bring it around.
Yeah, I would wait before yanking it out and buying a new one. Definitely give it a chance.
Yeah.
Give it a chance.
Unless the pepper is wilted, then that's something maybe different. But if the plant itself was wilted, that's probably it.
Yeah, they're like
obviously there's no pepper.
Like yellowy.
Yellow leaves.
Yellow leaves.
Yeah, like they look almost like they're dying.
It's planted in full sun, like it's getting lots of sun and lots of heat all day.
Yeah, I haven't been watering that much, but I just figured that I didn't know whether or not I had the leaves off right now, or if I should just let it lit for now.
Yeah.
I would still give it another week. I wouldn't quite throw the plant out. The stress of the heat, and then the combination of not watering. Like usually I'd water in the evening and morning when the sun's not up. This way you're not wasting water and whatnot. But now with this rain, it should bring it around. What you'll do is look at the core of the pepper. Make sure that it still looks lush and green. If that's still lush and green, even knowing the larger leaves are turning yellow, that's natural on peppers. They're kicking their old baby leaves off to produce for a new sequence.
And if that doesn't work, sometimes you can get like a plant starter fertilizer, which kind of gives it a boost of root production right away. And it helps establish your plant in your garden after you transplant it. It's a high phosphate, right, number, and then so it gives it a nice downward boost of energy to just get it nice and rooted. Because you can imagine your pepper is growing in a tiny little, 2 to 4 inches pot, and it's contained in there. And once it has room to grow in the garden, it's like a kid who's been in his room and now he's released. He's gonna go crazy all over the house, and then the plant starter fertilizer helps it gain that energy to actually establish the roots properly right off the bat. If that's the problem, otherwise, like Shay said, give it another week, give it a chance.
Yeah. First rainfall of the year, Laura. Maybe just wait on it. At least that's
yeah,
my opinion.
It's just a question. So thanks so much.
Well,
yeah,
great.
my question.
Great. Thanks for your call, Laura.
Yeah, have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Also, a lot of these calls sound like they're coming from Churchill, so we gotta work on the reception here. Get some new phones, people. Just quick talking point. Our show is live right now, on Thursday, May 26th, from 6:30 to 7:30. The time is 20 to 7. So if you're watching this at any other time, it's a repeat. So don't call through. Don't waste your time. Your question's going to have to wait, but leave a message and we're going to call you next week on the show and get your question on the air, okay? So, again, if it's Saturday right now, don't be calling in. Just, go out and water your plants and we'll talk to you next week. We're going to change pace for a moment. And right now we're going to learn a bit more about native plant species and how they can be used in landscaping. You might have seen some native plant species right around the Human Rights Museum. And our next panelist is the guy who seeded that very yard. So, Gord Mackay, you've got some information on native plants.
Yes. I brought some examples. So, the native grasses, prior to Europeans arriving in Manitoba, this is what covered Manitoba and actually most of the North American continent from Texas all the way up to just south of the lakes. Probably the dominant species in there was big blue stem. I'll put this one down. So big blue stem grows from Texas right up to in around Lake of the Prairies, and that you could ID it by it. It's called a turkey foot. You see the seed heads kind of look like a turkey foot, and it was probably one of the more dominant species. It grows along a lot of the highways, up number 7, out number 1, out to Vulcan. There's masses of it. It was never seeded there. It just grows naturally. Part of the maintenance on the highways, with them only mowing it once or twice a year, it's kind of able to dominate it along the hot, dry roadbed. And here are some of the other species. So native plants are always good to use. They're very drought tolerant, very deep rooted, don't need a lot of water, and they're a good alternative. You're seeing a lot more of them used as like at the Human Rights Museum, where they don't want no maintenance.
Sure.
Landscaping, and they're unique too because they change. As in the fall, when everything starts to senesce, the warm season species have the beautiful color, the reds, the oranges. This one's a little purple. This is a little blue stem. The other blue stem, it was harvested. This dried sample was harvested a little early, but it turns a nice orange color. You've got switchgrass, which is here. This one's a little shorter. It grows about 4 feet tall. It turns yellow in the fall. It grows at a little bit more wetter spots in ditches and swales.
Are you saying that this is like an alternative to like normal green grass in people's front yards?
Well, maybe not in people's front yards. It's kind of unique. The native species are very slow growing. In that first year upon seeding, they put most of their energy into the root system. Deep, extensive root system. So some of the species might not even produce a seed head in the first year. It's just kind of like a green grass. Second year, they just start to shoot up. They've got the deep root system, and then that's when they can grow. But I know a lot of I'm finding these native species in garden centers now. There's native species of little blue stem. I've seen native species of big blue stem. Some switchgrasses are available in garden centers. They've got different names, and the ones are more blue. They say heavy metal, north winds. They seem to be working on this stuff.
If you're just growing like a normal garden or a yard, like let's say in Winnipeg, you can just what would you do with these to incorporate it into your?
You go to a garden center. You could buy one that's already grown. Incorporate in your garden. It gives a bit of visual, tall, different look to your garden instead of the flowers. It provides color when the other things aren't blooming, and I would leave it up all winter long, let the snow trap in the spring, just trim it off at the base and let it regrow.
Mm-hmm. And where, like, are people planting this more and more? Like, or I know I've seen these at golf courses and so forth. Like,
some people are incorporating them. I think when we started doing a lot of this work in Winnipeg around some of these naturalized stormwater retention ponds, it was, I guess, around the same times you saw other grasses being, and you can see people incorporating the native plants in their own landscaping now.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. That's very interesting. Great. So, yeah, if you're looking for an alternative or just a nice, low maintenance plant to just, kind of incorporate into your garden, give it a bit of a look, a little bit of a spice, native plants, native grasses might be your answer.
Yeah, and there's nurseries that specialize in just native plants. Prairie Originals out in Lockport. And she actually sells to a number of other garden centers, so sometimes you'll find her plants at other garden centers. I know she's at the St. Norbert Farmers Market.
Great. So they're not just weeds, people. That's what I thought, but no, they have a purpose, and they are Manitoba homegrown, so don't forget that. We've got lots of, thanks, Gord. Thanks for that. That was great. We have lots of callers waiting, but if you've just joined us and you want to call in, take a look at the break.
Do you have a gardening question for one of our experts on the show today? We would love to hear from you. Please phone in to register your question by dialing 204-480-3500. Leave a message and volunteers will call you back as soon as they can. That's when we put your question out live on air. You can also register your question online. Go to shaw.ca/ShawTV Winnipeg or check our Facebook page. Shaw TV is grateful for the support of our community sponsors.
All right, welcome back to Calling All Gardeners, everybody. We've got a lot of callers, some of them who are just busting to get on the air. Lynn, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, Lynn, how you doing?
Hi, good. I'm so glad to be on your show.
Oh.
Thanks very much. I have a two-part question, actually.
Sure.
So I'll be quick. The first part has to do with plums. Years ago, when I lived in St. Norbert, in the next lot to us, there was some plum bushes in that. And I'm wondering about growing some plum bushes or native plum plants or whatever. I imagine that's why Plum Coulee got its name. So what are the plum bushes which are native to Manitoba? Is it possible to grow them, to obtain them and grow them? And how do I do that? That's the first part. Okay.
Sure. We'll remember that. You want to go to the second part?
Oh yeah, okay. The second part is years ago. My mother grew up on a homestead farm in the Interlake, and she used to tell us about going out into the bush and picking nuts. And they would pick their nuts and that and store them away. I kid you not, for winter. And during winter, grandmother used to make a spice cake with nuts in them, and that as a treat. And when I was a small child, my mother also took me out to the bush one year and showed us the native plants that grew nuts and that. I think they were hazelnuts, but I'm really not sure. I wonder if you could lend some insight into that. What kind of nuts can we grow here in Manitoba? And what kind of specific soils, and is it possible to grow some locally in my garden and that?
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, Lynn.
Okay, sorry.
No, thank you. No, we've got the experts here. Plums and nuts. First of all, let's talk about plums, plum bushes.
Okay.
There are
I'm
several.
no expert on plums.
No, there's lots of wild plums.
Yeah.
I think if you went up to Prairie Originals, I think she might sell them.
Yeah.
You see them growing in a lot of headlands and around everywhere. Actually, they're actually flowering right now.
Yeah.
But could you buy a plant to plant in our yard
Yeah.
to grow plums?
Prairie-
Oh, okay, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of like some nurseries that carry shrubs and whatnot will carry the original plums to Manitoba. They're careful with the ones that they do though, because a lot of the original ones actually have disease that are imported with them and whatnot, and they're also more contrite. So if you do get an original plum from Manitoba, you're going to want to use the copper spray, which is a natural spray, just to keep it so that it retains. Otherwise, you're going to lose your crop.
What kind of spray is that?
Copper spray.
Copper spray?
Yeah.
And that's like a nutritional substance, or
No,
or what?
it's like a fungicide.
Fungicide.
It basically stops funguses from growing on the plum trees, which it's usually like scab bear and that'll just tear the
Really?
tree right up.
Really, that's too bad.
Yeah, so just
That's really too bad.
that's like you used to see loads of plums everywhere, and
Yes.
since we've been having disease problems, you're starting to see less and less of them in the bush forms and that's why,
Yes.
because they're just disappearing due to disease.
Oh my goodness.
Let's move on. Sorry, my apologies, Lynn. Let's move on to nuts.
Okay. So is there a different type of plum tree or plum bush which would be better here, other than the local native plums?
Well, I would still grow the local native plums.
I would
by
like
far.
that too.
The other ones that you're going to buy are going to be grafted. They're all grafted product
Okay.
onto either a crabapple stalk or something else that's going to be hardier. Because of that, they are more disease resistant. Like they won't get it as much.
Okay.
But
All right.
yeah, I would still encourage definitely to go with the native plums because we're starting to lose them. Just make sure you use the copper spray to keep them under control.
Sure. Okay. Okay. And then the nuts?
Yeah, the nuts. Are there hazelnuts that are
Yeah,
native
my
to-
grandparents used to have a hazelnut tree in the back, and we actually sell hazelnuts, real local
Yeah.
hazelnuts, during near the end of the summer.
Okay.
And you just
Okay.
roast those guys on an oven,
they're
and a bit of salt, pepper, sugar.
Yeah.
Delicious. Maybe not pepper, but yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Walnuts will also grow in Manitoba,
Yeah.
as well as acorns.
Okay. Excellent.
So there's
Well,
three nut varieties that you could go with
Can
right
we
away.
actually eat acorns though?
Oh yes, roast them and they're delicious.
Really?
Yeah.
Until soft.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, well, thank you very much.
No problem, Lynn. Thanks for your call. I feel like she was just after trail mix there. She's going to try out those plums.
Absolutely, plum
She
trail
wants some
mix.
nuts.
Yeah.
We know your end goal, Lynn. Okay, you're after trail mix, and good luck with that. Up next, we've got an email from Jordania. Hope I didn't get your name wrong. She is saying, how do I enrich the soil in my long unused garden bed so I can grow vegetables and perennials?
There's a couple things you can do. First of all, if your soil is really, really old, you might see that it's very, very tough. It's very, very hard, very gumbo-y. Everything's down at the bottom. All that's left on top is a hard shell of once glorious garden that is now disheveled and decrepit. Anyway, so what you can add is just a fresh layer of dark soil. Usually you'll get like a mix that has a bit of manure in it, a bit of peat moss, kind of just freshen everything up, lighten everything up. If the soil still is fluffy and still nice, but you think there's just lacking nutrients, compost is my first suggestion. If you've got some, great stuff. You can also purchase compost. Be careful with the pH. I've used compost in the past that had way too low a pH, was way too acidic, because it wasn't monitored properly. If you just put whatever you have in a compost, it can screw pretty much your whole growing period because everything's too acidic. So either you buy compost and you mix it in and you check the pH with just a cheap little test you buy at any garden center, and you test the pH to make sure it's fairly stable. Or you can add manure, cow manure, sheep manure, whatever you want. Just add some nutrients in there. And if you don't want to do that and you just want to attack some certain areas in the soil, you can always do like a bit of organic fertilizer in certain parts of the soil. Let's say some plants are having more trouble than others. Add a focused fertilizer for that plant. Like let's say I'm using, I'm putting flowers in a certain area. You want a flowering, bloom boosting fertilizer.
Sure.
Otherwise, just a nice healthy compost. Mix it in with the top of the soil. Great stuff.
Yeah, just make sure you aerate it.
Yeah,
That's the key. Just giving it back to life.
Yeah,
Sure.
rototill it.
Well, there you go, Jordana. No flower bed is past the point of dying. I don't think, right? You can always spruce it
Never.
up.
Always
right?
give it back.
Okay. Up next, we've got a caller. Are you there, Shirley?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Shirley. How are you doing today?
Not too bad at all. How are you?
Oh, doing all right. Doing great.
Good.
You have a question for the panel?
Yes, I do. I have a balcony which faces west, and it's screened in. And although I do get the afternoon sun, it's sort of dissipated because of the screen, so I can't put in, flowers that need a lot of sun because they don't do well out there. But it's not shady, so I really don't know what kind of plants I could put out on my balcony, in planters. Does anybody have any suggestions?
Yeah, you would still retain to your shade plants because it is on the west side, so it's going to get hot there. Even though when you have that screen basically shading it even more, you still have that west side, which is going to get hot. So still go with your shade plants, Lobelia, Impatiens, Coleus, Tyrinia, Mimulus. A lot of those plants will totally work in there for you. And then there's also succulents. You can do a bunch of succulent varieties, which will work very well in there as well.
Oh, thank you. That's a good idea.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know what kind of words you just used. I have a feeling that they meant something and that was helpful information here. Up next, we've got email from Jane. Jane asks, should I be fertilizing my veggies throughout the summer? And if so, what fertilizer is recommended? So how often do you fertilize?
It depends, like Jane was saying, on which fertilizer type you're using. If you're using a slow release pellets, obviously you're not putting these every week. You're putting them maybe 2, maybe 3 times a year.
Yeah.
They'll say you 4 times on the box, but they're trying to sell you fertilizer.
Sure.
So 2-3 times. If you've got a healthy compost in there, healthy soil, you should be good to go. If you're using a soluble fertilizer, which as I like to call it, Kool-Aid for tomatoes, where you mix it in the water, you can pretty much use it every time you're watering, or like Shay was saying, every week or so, just kind of give it some food.
Sure.
Otherwise, you might see that you don't even need fertilizer if your soil's amazing and you've got a lot of depth to go to. Your tomato plants are your vegetable plants in general and your flowers are going to go very deep, and they're going to find food where there is.
Sure.
And so you might see that your leaves aren't turning yellow. You're producing lots and lots of flowers. You're getting lots of fruits. You'll see maybe you don't even need fertilizer. I always recommend it. Grab an organic-based fertilizer. Give it some food. Give it some power. And like a slow release, usually, like I said, just a couple times a year. It'll slowly dissipate in the soil. And what type of fertilizer? Sorry, you're probably like a vegetable and tomato-based focused fertilizer with a high phosphate level that produces bloom. And you want to have the most blooms to make more fruit. So anything that says, tomatoes or vegetables are usually really good for vegetables in general.
Yep.
There you go, Jane. That did answer your question. I'm not even going to say I hope it did, because I know it did. These panelists, they know what they're doing. Up next, we've got Maggie on the line. Maggie, you there?
Yes, hello, I am.
Hey, Maggie, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I
Great.
enjoy your show very much.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Do you have a question for the panel?
Yes, I do. I live in the Garden City area, and we have an abundance of rabbits. And around my garden in the last few years, I've been putting a netting around them, but I'm getting tiresome of doing that. I understand that something called blood meal to put on the plants is an alternative to me fencing it all the time. Could you give me more information about that?
So she wants protection from rabbits. Yeah.
Blood meal works quite well for rabbits and deer. So blood meal is basically what's left over after they slaughter a cow. Whatever they can't use, it's baked and dried. And you can get it in if you look where the chemicals are in a lot of the lawn and garden centers, you find bone meal and blood meal. And you sprinkle it around your what they're eating, and the smell will deter them. But if it rains a lot, you have to reapply it.
Okay.
Now, do you put them directly on the plants as well?
I just put it around them. I put it around.
So around the perimeter
I find in the
of
spring,
the garden, or around the plants themselves.
within a foot or two, just to sprinkle a little bit. I put a bit in a salt shaker and I just shake it around my plants.
Oh.
But would she go around the perimeter of her garden or around each individual?
You have a big garden, you can just go around the perimeter of it. You could even sprinkle it on your grass. It works quite well. It'll stimulate the grass. One other thing that I've tried, and I don't know how well it works, but if you have an old garden hose, I've heard if you cut it up into sections, rabbits think they're garter snakes and they don't like garter snakes. I don't know if it
really?
works. Yep.
Is that a fact? Okay, so like just what length of hose would you cut it up into?
Around a foot if you have an old hose.
Okay.
And you can cut it up and scatter them around. I've heard it works. I've heard farmers that use it to keep it off their, keep rabbits and deer away from their vegetables, but blood meal works also quite well.
Yeah.
Okay, and that would be all your suggestions so far, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for all your help.
No problem. That and a BB
All
gun,
right.
Maggie.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding, of course. Don't do that.
Pardon me?
I just said that and a BB gun, but don't do that. That's terrible advice. Yeah.
I'll take the first advice.
Try the blood meal. Like, he's the expert. I'm an idiot.
Thank you so much for all your help.
No problem. Thanks for tuning in.
And have a great gardening
Yeah.
summer. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Good luck. That garden
Thank
hose,
you.
that garden hose thing, almost sounds like an old wives' tale.
Yeah.
Like, are
I
rabbits
don't
that
know.
dumb? Are they that
My dad
dumb?
swore by it, but I don't know if
Okay.
it worked or not.
Who knows? I might fall for it. I don't know. But anyways, right now the show is all about gardening and planting, and it's time to learn a little bit more about veggies. Colin Remyard thinks, and I nailed that name by the
You
way,
bet. Yeah, there we
thinks you should try growing this summer. He's got a bunch of stuff, including some of his own inventions. Is that true?
Yeah, not my own invention, but yeah, our secret brand of secret Saint Leon tomatoes. Anyways, let's start from the top. We've got, these are some veggies that I love to grow and that you should try this year as well. So I'll start with the tomatoes. I'm a really big tomato guy, and we sell over 101 varieties of tomatoes at our garden center, Saint Leon Gardens on St. Mary's Road. Obviously, there's thousands and thousands of them, but we sell 101 of great varieties, and we've got anything from purple, dark gray, dark colored tomatoes to yellow to green, anything you can imagine. All right, so this is my first one right here. It's called Mountain Majesty. It's just a great determinate plant of a big beefsteak tomatoes, and you grow tons and tons and tons of them. It's a determinate plant in the sense that it's more of a bush type. So determinates and indeterminates tomatoes, I don't want to go too much into it because I could go on for hours, but essentially the nature of the tomato plant itself means that they'll grow in a different shape. Determinate types are more like a tree. So once the main stem blooms, it'll kind of stop growing at that height and it'll fill up on the side, kind of bush out, and you'll have a nice bush type tomato. An indeterminate type is more of a vine type. So even if the main stem blooms, it's going to shoot out another sucker, it's going to shoot out, and it's just going to keep growing in all directions. At the end of the day, your tomatoes are going to be probably very big, very lanky either way. So don't worry too much about that. A lot of people are scared of growing indeterminates in containers. I wouldn't worry too much. As long as you're on top of things, you're cutting the suckers you don't like, you're cutting the vines that are going, under your chair, on your patio, or growing on your mosquito net. You can cut those as freely as you want, and you're caging your tomatoes, both types equally. You're gonna have great tomatoes in containers. So you don't have to worry too much about the compact versions versus the viney versions. As long as you're on top of things, you should be fine. Anyways, that said, this is a Mountain Majesty, great hybrid, great disease resistance, and just great consistently nice big tomatoes. Awesome. I've also got this guy called the Old German. It's a nice old heirloom of a striped big beefsteak, orange and yellow, and just nice fruity, soft, mild flavors, less tomatoey, but more on the fruity sweet side. And you're getting lots of these big, ugly tomatoes, as I like to say, but they're gorgeous in their own way. So you got big, bulging tomatoes here. Next up, like Tyler was saying, this is our secret Saint Leon tomatoes. It's a secret variety. I don't even know what it is. Nobody ever told me. But it's a solid, determinate, compact plant, and it starts way early, maturity at like 68. And for a beefsteak, that's pretty solid. And so a big tomato starts early and goes up until frost, and you're getting dozens of these nice, big, awesome, red tomatoes. I've also got a bunch of other varieties at the shop. I've got green grapes. As you'll see on the screen, you'll see a bunch of different colors. And I've also got here black cherry, solid flavor, nice deep smoky almost flavoring, really different from your traditional red cherry tomato. And I always like to try one regular old red, so I know I'm getting lots of tomatoes. And I also try I like to try a bunch of old heirlooms just to get nice coloring in my garden. And when I make a tomato salad or tomato sandwich, I'm bored now with my red tomatoes. I need something black, I need something green, orange, yellow. It's awesome. Anyways, enough with tomatoes. I could go on all day. This here is a ground cherry, or a husk cherry as they call them. We put them with our tomato section. It is a long cousin of the tomato and all that stuff. But essentially, this is a huge plant. So I would maybe keep it in a container just to keep it contained. But it makes these big, huge plants. And if you've never tried a ground cherry, you got to do it. We sell it at our shop during the summer. My dad grows them actually. And there's you take off the husk when the husk is dark brown, and when the fruit falls on the ground, you've got a nice orange, kind of pineapple-y flavor, sweet flavor, almost bitter a bit, but it's awesome. Great for garnishes, great for desserts. Amazing plant, and nobody knows. Not a lot of people know about them, but they should. It's a great stuff. On to peppers. I know I'm dragging on. Just cut me off if I'm going too long.
Don't worry about it.
Just a regular old ring of fire pepper. You want to add some heat to your tomato sauce. You want to add some heat to stir fry. Just one of these will do, or even half of one of these. It's just a nice, not crazy hot. Like it's no ghost pepper. It's no Carolina Reaper 2 million Scoville. It's around the 80,000 range. And if you're wondering, a jalapeno is around 5 to 20,000 Scovilles.
So it's got some kick.
It's got some kick, but it's also smaller than a jalapeno.
Okay.
So the ratios are there.
Yeah.
Perfect. This guy, big bush of pepper plants, and you'll see it doesn't look like much at first, but then you'll look inside, and you'll see all these green, kind of this size ring of fire peppers just falling from the tree, and you'll be like, oh, awesome! I can freeze these. I can dry these. Do whatever you want. I eat them green. You can wait till they turn red, but you can do whatever you want. Right here, I've got one of my favorite cucumbers of all time. It's called salt and pepper cucumbers. I planted these beside a traditional green cucumber last year, and this guy took over my garden like crazy. My green cucumber got destroyed. I got one little cucumber, but it didn't do anything. These guys are crunchier than a green one. They're sweeter. They're more delicious than a green cucumber, and it looks amazing on a plate. They're actually that color like you see on the screen. They're white. They've got little specks of black on it, and it produced like hundreds and hundreds of cucumbers for me. It was great. You can pickle them. You can eat them raw, and they're delicious. Just don't be scared by the color too much there. They're amazing. And afterwards, after your garden, all your veggies are set up, you'll need some basil and some herbs to add to your caprese salad. You got some tomatoes, some mozzarella. Well, you need some basil. This is a red Genovese basil. Just a nice color on a pizza, color on a salad. Just great basil. Grows in a bush. Just the general rule with herbs is if you want more leaves, cut off the flowers. And if you're putting them in a pot, like Shay was saying earlier, you run out of food fairly quickly in a pot. So do keep these guys fertilized, and make sure you're watering the bottom of the soil and not the leaves, because you want to avoid some mold and you want to avoid some rots. So that's that. I'll stop there. I could keep going, but anyways, grow some awesome gardens, people.
Yeah.
It's fun stuff.
Yeah, so, for you at home, Colin just dropped some knowledge on you, like he did on me. My mind is blown at how many different types of tomatoes there are.
Oh, one more thing. Sorry,
Sure,
Tyler.
no, go for it.
This is actually, some people think this is great to buy this at the store, but it's actually a bit overgrown. What you're going to want to do is give it a boost right off the bat. Tomato stems actually grow roots all the way down the main stem. So what you can do is actually plant it about this deep in the ground, just to get it a head start under the ground. A lot of folks are scared of buying, small tomatoes like this, but I actually prefer them this tall. This is overgrown for its container. I'll clip off some of the stems here and plant it this deep in the ground, believe it or not. They'll do roots all the way down and get a boost right off the bat. It's awesome.
Then you're in Tomatoville.
You're in Tomato City.
Tomato City, also known as Colin Land.
Colin Land, St. Leon Gardens.
Totally. Wow, that's great stuff. Our panelists are the best. We always have stacked lineups here. So I hope you're taking notes at home, people. I really do, because you don't want to miss out. Just to let you know, many of the shows on Shaw TV are created by volunteers, just like this one. I'm not getting paid. These guys aren't getting paid. We're here out of our own time to bring you this program. None of the people working the cameras or the lovely people at the production booths are getting paid. We do this because we love something to do with this. So if you want to volunteer, if this looks fun to you and you want to participate in a local television production, feel free to email createtv@shaw.ca, and we'll put you through the ropes, see if you're good enough. We're not just going to let you in willy-nilly. Come on. Kidding, of course. If you've just joined us and you're wondering how you can call in, this next commercial is going to tell you everything you need to know about that. So see you after the break.
Do you have a gardening question for one of our experts on the show today? We would love to hear from you. Please phone in to register your question by dialing 204-480-3500. Leave a message and volunteers will call you back as soon as they can. That's when we put your question out live on air. You can also register your question online. Go to shaw.ca/Shaw TV Winnipeg or check our Facebook page.
Welcome back. Thanks, everyone, for the break. Up next, I think we've got an email. Yeah, we've got an email from, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Landon? I think it's Landon. Might be Landony. I'm not sure. But he asked, do you have any suggestions for shade perennials that flower all summer? And there's an image to go with it. Anything like that?
Yeah, there's quite a few varieties of shade perennials in the perennial family. Most people, of course, go for the hostas because that's the most common by far. You go to any garden center, they're going to have hostas. But there's Virginia, there's lobelia, there's ajuga, there's nettlevine. There's like 9 or 12 that I can just go for right away in my greenhouse alone. And I'm sure you have several at yours as well. It's not a limit. What I would recommend that you do, go to the garden center, tag down a staff and say, come help me with the perennials. Let's go through the perennial section. I'm looking for shade ones. And most of the staff is knowledgeable. They'll be able to say, here's a shade, here's a shade, here's a shade, here's a shade. Ask them the height, tell them the difference. I mean, bleeding hearts work in the shade. And there's a lot of variety. So go to the garden center, your favorite garden center, and ask the staff there. They'll be able to help you.
Great. You know what? We're going to just keep motoring because we got a lot of people with a lot of questions. Up next, we've got Tim. Tim, you're on the line?
Yeah, it's me.
Hey, Tim, how you doing?
The shits, thanks for asking.
No problem. Do you have a question for the panel?
Yeah, okay. This is I don't know if it's an old farmer's tale or not, but if you plant tomatoes and if you plant garlic around them, it keeps the bugs away. Is that correct?
I'm not going to say it totally keeps the bugs away. But garlic, I mean, okay, you eat a garlic clove and you go to a friend and you breathe on them, what does it do?
You're going to push them away.
So it works, it helps, but it's not the cure. I mean, some people will tolerate you. So the smelly things like garlic, onions, marigolds, Coleus caninus, all of those kind of stinky plants, yes, they definitely help.
They definitely help the tomato plants. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. I thought it was an old farmer's tale.
All right.
Awesome. Okay, thanks a lot, Tim.
Thank you, guys.
No problem. Take care. Up next, we've got an email from Tracy. Tracy says, how can I get rid of the ants in my lawn in an eco-friendly way? So Tracy doesn't want to gas her lawn to Kingdom Come, but she also doesn't want the ants to, have their empire there. Also, how do you take care of that? What do you do?
I think you could probably use some diatomaceous earth to get rid of them. It's a fossil-based, very sharp for bugs, eco-friendly way of deterring many types of bugs around your garden. You would just apply it around the perimeter of your garden. And what essentially it is, it's like a very sharp powder based, made from fossilized fossils, essentially. And it cuts the bugs and deters them from your garden. So
will that work on our lawn too? Will her grass still grow and everything?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You can actually, it's in theory comestible for humans. Probably not recommended because it's like if you're eating dust, don't mix it with water and drink it. It is a dust after all, and also maybe don't breathe it too much because dust in general in your lungs isn't the best thing, but it's one of the more eco-friendly way.
Gord?
I wouldn't. You can hose down if they've got an anthill in your grass. You can hose them down, but they're going to come back. I think the diatomaceous earth is probably a good solution.
Diatomaceous.
Diatomaceous. That's a Greek god right there.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
pretty
right.
Sure, if I know my Greek mythology. Up next, we've got an email from Sandra. Sandra is asking, how do I establish and care for perennial hens and chicks grown in the ground?
That's a shade question right there.
Succulents. Specialty.
Succulents, yeah. Hen and chicks generally are a clump builder. Like they're going to have the mother and then the hens come off of it, and then those build up and the hens come off of it. Where I see a lot of problems with hen and chicks starting to multiply is where people have jammed them near the faucet of their house because nothing else is kind of growing there. So they're like, oh, hen and chicks are kind of aggressive. We're going to put them there. But that's a drippy soffit. You know, it's kind of always wet and moist there. You're always connecting your hose and disconnecting it. Hens and chicks don't like that. They're a succulent. They want the ground a little bit drier. They want a harsh environment rather than a lush environment. So just make sure that you plant them out in a good environment. Give them at least a half day's sun is what they're going to be looking for. After that, they really do well in Manitoba.
Well, great. Well, there you go. This episode that you're watching right now is going to be repeated on here, Shaw TV, Channel 9. So if you missed anything, you can watch it again and just check your guide for all the playback times. Guys, thanks a lot for coming out. Oh, just to let you know, replays Thursdays at 10 p.m., which is tonight. Tonight you can catch the repeat, and then this weekend at 4:30 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, and on 1 p.m. on Sunday night. Check your guide; it'll be on there. I don't have to go over all the times. Guys, thanks a lot for coming in today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys got any plans for the rain weather? What are you guys doing?
I'm pruning plants.
Okay. Hopefully your work slows down a bit.
A little bit, yeah. It's gonna, a little bit.
And Gord, what are you up to?
I got a road trip planned. I got to go look at a site north of Brandon. So
nice.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Any final tips for gardeners? Any, like, you know, if you let's say you got a stadium filled with gardeners and you're on stage, Madison Square Garden, and they're like, tell us one thing about gardening. What do you do? What's a common mistake you see or something?
I would say just don't be afraid to try new things. Gardening has been an art for years and years, and it's all about trial and error, trial and error. You note down what you did this year, keep your tags, keep exactly what you did. This worked really well, this did not work well. You know, come to the garden centers, discuss with us, like, I tried to go with this, did not work. Try new things, don't be afraid to go out of the comfort zone, and just explore the world that is gardening. It's not something you don't always have to plant petunias. Petunias are great, but after 18 years of petunias,
some of those cool ones.
maybe try something else. Yeah.
That's advice that goes beyond gardening right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I'd say the same. You know, and one thing that works this year is not going to work next year. You know, everybody says to me, like, they'll come and at the end of one year, they'll be like, well, it worked 2 years ago. Why didn't it work this year? And it's like, well, 2 years ago it was hot and dry. This year it was rainy every day.
Sure.
So it's not going to work. So that's where the exploring comes in. You know, adapt to the plant. Realize, well, you know what? If it's hot and dry, okay, buy the rain faucet or buy the drippy hose worked perfect because that plant got the moisture it needed. Versus you reverse that in a rainy season, you're not going to get it.
Gord, anything?
buy native, grow native. You know, they don't take a lot of work. They're deep rooted. They don't require a lot of water. Make life easy on yourself.
Yep. Gotta tell you, that spoke to me right there. Not a lot of work. I relate to that. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming on the show today. Awesome. We really appreciate it. Remember, you can tune in next Thursday, and we will see you next week.